Like even sheesh. Do you know sheesh?
No. Is that a person or a thing?
Okay, I'll do it once for you. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Sheesh. Awesome. Nice to meet you, Dr. K.
Nice to meet you too. What do you go by, friend?
You can call me Harrison, or you can
Okay.
call me hJune. Doesn't really matter.
What would you prefer?
I think most people call me June.
June? Okay. June it is then. Are we going to be able to... Are we doing a video interview today, June?
No. I don't usually do face cam.
Okay, sure. So then let me just make a quick adjustment. Okay. So tell me a little bit about what you'd like to talk about today and how I can be helpful.
Ooh. I think I want to talk about like maybe 3 topics, maybe one of the 3 topics if we have enough time.
Sure.
I think one of them is like opening up in friendships and like relationships, because I feel like I can make friends really easily, but at the surface level. Because I feel like if I think of like really close friends, right, like best friends, like people usually open up about like super personal stuff. But then like I tend to never do that to other people, where I talk about myself, because I feel like I don't really have a moment where I feel like I need to do that, because I feel like I deal with it alone anyways. But then because I don't do that, I feel like most friendships end up just at the surface level. And I want to change that somehow.
Why do you want to change that?
Because I want closer friends.
And what makes you want closer friends? I know it's kind of a weird question.
I think having a lot of friends is actually not as good as having a few really close friends.
So you value close friendships. Have you ever had a close friend?
Yeah, I have like close friends from high school.
Okay.
But,
were you Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we were able to get like, really close, but as time goes on, like you kind of drift apart, right? Because
absolutely
everyone goes different paths. So there's not that many times that you can like catch up with them. So you meet new friends that are, for example, like if you're a streamer, you meet other streamer friends.
And what do you think it is that makes it hard for you to open up?
I just don't feel the need to. Like, it's just like kind of random to just talk about personal stuff with someone that you just met not too long ago.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I asked you kind of a weird question, which is like, why do you want close friends? Because I think the first question is really like to think a little bit about, is there a part of you that wants to open up but can't? Or, I know this sounds kind of weird, but like another possibility is that you sort of know theoretically that like people have close friends and you've had close friends before, but it's actually not something that you actually need right now. What do you think about that?
But I think that also ties into my relationships too, where like if you don't open up to anybody, then how are you supposed to get emotionally attached to them, right?
Do you want to be emotionally attached to people?
Yeah, I think I'm not one to get like super lonely and stuff like that, but I think especially with the COVID and stuff, like I feel like if I do this, I might end up single until I'm like 40 or something.
Okay. And are you so I know this sounds weird, June, but like, is the reason that you want to open up to people because you want to avoid being single at the age of 40?
No.
Why do you want to?
That is not the reason why.
Okay. That's very helpful.
No, I just feel like it's just better to have, like let's say I do have a moment where I do need people, right? Then I don't really have that moment right now, but I know later on there's eventually gonna be, you know, moments like that where I need someone. But then, like, if I never did that with anyone, then it would be kind of weird to just like do it out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
But I
So
do love listening to other people, though.
okay. So I know this is going to sound kind of weird, June, and maybe I'm just missing something because I sometimes when I can't see people's faces, I'll like misplay a little bit. So apologies. But I'm hearing you sort of say a lot of logical reasons why it's good to open up to people. Like, oh, like what if I need someone one day? Right? So but that's kind of interesting because what I'm hearing there is that I should open up to people. So if we thought to think about like there's like what I'm hearing from you is that, you know, in your mind you're kind of saying, "Oh, it's like it's a good idea to open up and form connections with people." But there's a difference between like it being a good idea and it being something that you want.
I think I want to.
I think you do too.
But I do see it in a logical way as well.
Yep. So I think this is where like we've got to get underneath the logic to try to get at what the wanting is. Because when I ask you about your motivations, I get a logical answer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. You see, I watched your interviews before, and then you'd always ask why. Why do you say that? I thought that was very interesting, and now it's happening to me. So cool.
What? I'm confused. You just lost me.
No, you're getting to the bottom of it, and I usually don't do that with myself. And
yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
So I think that what we're seeing here, I know this sounds kind of weird, but like, so like, June, this is going to be weird because like, I'm going to try to get you to open up, right? But that's not what you want to do. You want to open up. Does that make sense?
Now you lost me.
Yeah, so you want to be someone who wants to open up.
Yes.
But you don't actually want to open up.
I think I just don't know how to. Like, how do people get to the point where people open up?
Yeah, totally fine. So we'll try to get you there. Okay, June?
Okay.
So a big piece of this is going to be like, so when I say that you are someone who wants to be someone who wants to open up. So like you're striving to be someone who opens up, right? Because that's good and that's healthy and you just don't know how to. So if we think about, is that fair? Are we on the same page now? So if we think about what keeps people from opening up, so it's almost like something's holding you back. And so the blockage is between opening up, like, I don't know how to say this, but like you want to be someone who opens up. So there's something holding you back from being what you want to be. Does that make sense? So we're going to dig into that. So can you tell me about your relationships?
Like friendship wise?
You use the word relationships. I don't know what you're referring to there. Whatever you mean by that word.
I meant like friendships and then, you know, also relationships. Because I feel like, well, just to, you know, talk about myself a little bit.
Please.
Like right out of high school, I went to college. And then around the same time, I started playing this game called Rust.
Okay.
So this like a survival, you know, FPS kind of game. And then all I did really was, you know, play that game until like 18 to like 23.
Okay.
So basically, my entire adulthood was playing that game. And then eventually I made YouTube videos and then I became a YouTuber and then I started streaming and then I became a streamer. And only recently where, you know, I'm kind of getting burnt out of Rust. So I'm like venturing out into other games.
Okay.
And then I met a lot of like new friends. So because I made a lot of new friends, I like them a lot and I want to get close with them. Right. But because I haven't usually done that. Like, I don't like small talk. So, like, even at the first step, like, it's already doomed. You know what I mean?
What? Why is it doomed? Doomed?
Because I feel like if you don't even small talk, then how are you supposed to get to the deep talk?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. So what I'm hearing you say is that, like, generally speaking, the way that relationships progress is that you have some amount of small talk and then you progress to deep talk.
Mm-hmm.
And do you say that you don't like small talk, or are you not good at it?
I'm probably not good at it.
Okay. Where do you get that idea?
I just don't know what to say when we're talking about like surface level stuff.
Do you know what to say when you're talking about deep level stuff?
I think so. I'm really good at like listening to other people talk about deep stuff, but then when someone asks me, it's like I don't really know what to say, because let's say like someone's talking about like super emotional stuff, right? And then they ask me like, was there a very like emotional moment for you or like that? I don't really know what to say, because it's not really about like, I think this also ties to my other topic that I will talk about with you. I feel like I'm too emotionally moderate. And what I mean by that is like, I never get like super depressed, but also I don't get super happy either.
Okay.
So like there's not that many like moments of vulnerability that I can really talk about with people.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a problem?
I think if I don't talk about stuff like that with people, then it's not really like a two-way thing, right?
And you want it to be a two-way thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I think for a second, June?
Yes.
Can you tell me about your friends from high school?
Well, we're all gamers. We actually met playing League of Legends together.
Okay.
And they're all very smart. So basically I'll like sit with them, and then the teacher would think that I'm super smart too. So
Are you not super smart?
Like one of them, I would say I'm above average, but I'm not smart as them. Definitely not smart as them.
Okay. All right. So you would sit with them, and then the teachers would think you were super smart?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, that was great. So like in English class, I sat next to the smartest kid in my school, which is my best friend, and then the second smartest. So the English teacher was like, yo, this guy must be smart. He must be like third smartest or something. So even though I write like, maybe like a 86 level, she still gave me like a 95 level grade.
I'm confused by that. So like,
No, because she has like a preconception of what I will be like. So like whatever she reads that I write, it was better than what it was.
okay. So you're saying that she had a cognitive bias that caused her to inflate the value of your work.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you a question, okay? Because you're a super logical dude and above average intelligence. So how would we know if you are a person who gets the benefit of a cognitive bias from a teacher, or you're misjudging your own skill because of a cognitive bias on your part?
Ooh.
How do we know if
know
the
that.
paper is really a 95 and that you believe you deserve an 86, which is incorrect, or whether your paper is an 86 and you actually deserve it and it gets inflated to a 95?
I wouldn't know that. I think I do that a lot though.
I think you do too. Tell me other ways that you do that.
So for example, if I want to get like really good at something, I would look at people that are really good at that specific thing. So for example, let's say it's like gaming, right? Then if I wanted to be really good at a game, I would look at the very best. The very best in the game. And then I would constantly like strive to get there. And then I would just always assume that I'm always like under.
Yeah.
I think that's a good and bad thing.
Say more, June. I'd agree 100%. Explain that to us, please.
Because I think that always like keeps like a fire underneath you to keep going. But then you wouldn't really have like satisfaction of getting somewhere because you're always under that level that you want to get to. See, that's another thing. I think I really hate the feeling of like being mediocre.
Yep. You and me both, buddy.
Because like ever since high school, I tried a lot of things, right? So in high school, I tried like, well, I still sing like for fun, but I really like singing. I really like dancing. I like basketball. Like I like gaming, obviously. But I felt like I was like never the best at something. I was maybe like number 2 or like number 3 or like above average.
Is number 2 or number 3 above average? I mean, I guess technically the answer is yes, but I don't think about number 2 or number 3. Like, I wouldn't, you know, like if I think about the silver medalist at the Olympics, I don't like when I think about that person. The words above average is not what comes to mind.
But then I think how I was looking at it was like, maybe I'm number 2 in this school. But then like, I would be like, oh, okay, the number 1 in my school is this guy. But then that guy is like number 500 million in the world.
Sure. So, June, how can you tell me about like where, like what growing up was like for you?
In what way?
Like, where did you grow up? Who lived with you at home?
Oh, I lived in Vancouver. I grew up here. I'm Korean. So basically, I learned Korean first and then learned English. I have both my parents living with me, even until now. I have one older brother, one older sister, and they're much older than me. So I'd always play like Diablo 2 and play the same games that they played.
And
I think
yeah, go ahead.
I think it was a good childhood. I can't really think of any like traumas.
Sure.
I don't have anything like super bad I can think of.
Sure.
Or like a time where I was like super sad.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by being too emotionally moderate. Like I don't really like take things too seriously. So I feel like there's no real significant highlight of my life yet, which kind of feels empty sometimes.
Can I think for a second, June?
For sure.
Let me just think, okay? Did you compare yourself a lot to other people when you were young, or did your parents like sort of compare you to other people when you were young?
I think I just did that myself a lot. My parents don't really do that.
Do you have a sense of how you started doing that?
When I see like a good quality in people, like I want to try to do the same. So I would see that quality in my brother or my sister, or maybe my classmates, or maybe like someone older than me, or something I see on TV or whatever.
So, and I know this sounds kind of weird, but like, so I'm getting a sense that you strive to be more than you are.
Yeah.
It's always
In a
about
sense.
moving forward.
No.
No. Explain that to me, please.
Always striving to move forward. In the things that I'm passionate about, not in like life or my career wise, but if I really like gaming, for example, I'm gonna always strive to be better.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that it's true for the things that you're passionate about, but not like every random thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I have a weird question, June. What do you like? Are you good enough?
I think I'm good enough.
If you're good enough, what makes you want to be better?
Because it doesn't give me satisfaction.
Then why do you think you're good enough?
Well, I think being good enough doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to give you satisfaction.
What does give you satisfaction?
I think more than like career, like milestones, just like having fun with friends, probably, because I remember like distinctly, like so within the Rust community, I made like 3 tournaments last year called Trust and Rust. It's like where we brought all the people from the Rust community together, all the creators, all the streamers, all the YouTubers, and then we did like a huge event, and then we raised over like I think $200,000 in that year. But then like when it was done, I was like, oh, wow, that was great. But then that feeling was more like relief. Oh, it's over. But I wasn't really like super satisfied. But then when I play video games with friends and it was like a really fun night, I feel like I get more satisfaction from that than something like doing something really cool. Like if you think logically, raising all that money for charity and like helping all those people is awesome, right? But didn't really give me that much satisfaction.
Okay. So June, I'm noticing a couple of disconnects, which I probably need to like try to understand you a little bit better here. So on the one hand, you're kind of telling me that like you always are looking at number one, right? And you kind of recognize that that's like adaptive because it sort of like keeps the fire going and keeps you improving. And so I think we're running into a couple of different like conflicts, because I think if I ask you, are you good enough? I wonder if I'm getting a logical answer, but like, you know, there's a part of me that sort of gets the sense that you're striving to be number one. And until you're number one, you're not going to be like good enough or satisfied. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think good enough is like more like a logical answer, yes. Like
Yeah. So like if I like cuz like you said, like, you know, you're not like, you don't have like super low self-esteem or anything. So like you think you're like a decent dude. Right? You're above average. Just a cut above mediocre. Why is that funny?
No, sorry.
No, I think we hit a nerve there.
No, I think a lot of people would be satisfied if they were above average, but even if I do like something really cool, I don't know. There's like, I think it just stems back to like emotionally moderate.
I agree. So we'll get to, so first of all, June, I want to commend you, bro. Like, you've done a really good job of tying together, I think, a lot of things that feel like that can seem really far apart, but I really do think have a shared root. So I think the emotional moderation, the inability to open up, all of this talk about like, you know, being like never the smartest kid in the class, and essentially like a bias that causes you to devalue where you are. And like what I mean by that is like, you're getting 95s and you're friends with the 2 smartest kids in the class, but you sort of don't think of yourself, okay, maybe I'm the 3rd smartest kid. And I think if we look at like how that works, it's because your mind will find the second that you start to get towards the top, what does your mind do? I know it's kind of like a really weird, abstract, like open-ended question. So I'm just going to toss it out and then I'll give you like an answer. But I'm curious if you're kind of can read my mind there for a second. Right? So like we kind of heard you say like, okay, even if I think about the number 1 in my high school, like what is that number 1 compared to the rest of the world? So like your mind plays this game of constantly moving goalposts.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? So even if you rise to the top, like what does your mind do? Does it let you say, good job, June, you're number 1?
No, it doesn't do that.
What does it do?
Moves the goalpost?
Absolutely. Right? So you're on this like treadmill, and no matter how far you move forward, like you're never going to be satisfied. What do you think about that?
I'm trying to find ways to get that satisfaction.
Yeah, well, so that's because like so you're someone who's like walking on a treadmill instead of walking on a path, and then you're asking me, how do I get to the end of the road? Right? Where I think the problem is that like as long as you're on a treadmill, it'll never end.
That's true.
So like even if you
figure out what the treadmill is and what the path is.
Yeah, so I think the treadmill is that your mind continuously like, so as soon as you get like, even if you became the biggest Rust YouTuber, then your mind is like, okay, but what about the biggest Rust streamer? And then if you become the biggest Rust streamer, then it's like, oh, but there are people who play other games who are bigger than I am. And then you start comparing yourself to them. So what I'm hearing from you is...
I usually don't think that way in like career-wise though.
Do you feel satisfied in your career?
I feel like right now, because I don't have a game that I enjoy, like if I'm not passionate about something, I don't really have that drive. Like right now, I don't have that drive.
Yeah, so let me toss something back at you, okay? So you said that like, if I have a fun night with my friends, then I feel satisfied.
Yeah, like I go to bed like satisfied. Oh, that was a good day.
Yep. And so what goalpost did you hit by having a good night with your friends? Like, are you thinking about being number 1?
No.
Right, so this is like an important thing to understand, that satisfaction doesn't come from hitting the end of the road, it comes from not walking on the road. That the second you have a goalpost, and especially if you move the goalpost, you're never going to be satisfied. Because we've seen moments where you have been satisfied, but I know this sounds kind of like, now we get to some of this generic, yoga calendar stuff, but I think like in those moments, you're like, living in the present. You're like, today I'm going to play with my friends and we're going to do some cool stuff, and like then you can feel satisfied. But when you start living in the future, when you start living towards goals, when you start like thinking about becoming something, your mind won't let you be satisfied, because like no matter how good you do, it's going to advance the goalposts. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think just like probably finding other ways to get satisfaction. Like whether that's like, building friendships, or I think one thing that did help me recently is like having another avenue where I feel like I'm always making progress. So like that could be like going to the gym or something.
Yeah, so I think
that even if my goalpost is still there on somewhere else, I feel like I'm still moving on a different path.
Yeah, so June, now we get to something really hard, okay? Like this is probably going to be like really challenging because I think you're so you've come to rely on this part of yourself so much as a cornerstone of your success. I think it's going to be really hard to let it go. But like if you are progressing, progress can't come without dissatisfaction. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're always striving to be more.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you're striving to be more, if you want to be better, that means that you're not happy with where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So like I think there's this weird thing going on where like what you use to motivate you dooms you to be unsatisfied. Because it's never enough, right? Like you need to see the progress to feel good about yourself. But that progress implies that like you're not good enough because you need to be better. And if you need to be better, then like you're not good enough. Like those two come hand in hand. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, so then like, and this is where I think we see this like fundamental idea that you have that you're not good enough play out in the school English teacher example. Because if you believe you're not good enough and you get a 95, what does your mind conclude about why you got the 95? Was it because you did a good job?
Because I sat next to two kids.
There you go, right? So like it's weird because your mind starts from the foundation of like, I'm not good enough. So even when life tells you like, hey man, you did a great job, you're like, no, it's actually a cognitive bias. Because of where I sit in a classroom, my score is 9 points higher than where it deserves to be. Like, just think about that for a second, bro. Like, I'm sure that teachers have cognitive biases, but usually those cognitive biases have to do with people who kiss their ass, not like where they sit in the classroom.
That's true.
And they usually don't have like a 9-point swing, unless you really are like, stuffing your nose way up there. Right?
Okay,
like,
I definitely did do that.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? And so now we get to opening up because like, I know this sounds kind of weird, but like if you open up to people, like what do you think they'll see?
The vulnerable side?
Yeah, but what is in the vulnerable side?
What is in the vulnerable side?
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to try to help you out, okay? So like I'm going to give you a hypothesis. Whereas like I think that sometimes the reason that we have difficulty opening up is because we believe that what is on the inside is ugly. Like that's the biggest reason to not be vulnerable, because you don't want to show people like what's ugly. Right? Like you can think about people who like are self-conscious about going to the beach because of the body that is underneath their clothes. Like who's self-conscious about going to the beach? It's like people who are like embarrassed to have, like a flabby stomach or whatever. And so like the people who hesitate to be vulnerable are the ones that have something to hide. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. But if I try to think like what things I can talk about, I don't really know. I'm trying to think like, am I hiding something? Because I'm trying to like, listen to what you're saying, right? But I don't know if I have that.
Yep, makes sense. I think that it seems very inaccessible to me talking to you. So we'll get to that in a second. But something that I want you to kind of play around with is like, I suspect, June, that, I mean, I don't know, this could be wrong, but like, I think there's this weird like complex of like not being good enough, which strives you to be better, so you love it. But that also means that, like, you never view yourself as good enough. And if you never view yourself as good enough, like, it can be hard to open up to people because, like, what are you displaying to them? Like, what do you want to show the world? Like, what do you want people to see you as, June?
Just a fun guy to be around.
Yeah, and so if you start telling people, like, and what are you?
I think I'm a fun guy to be around.
Okay. Right, so I think this is where if you want to be a fun guy to be around, like, and you start sharing your vulnerabilities with them, like, what are you then?
Fun friend to be around?
I don't think so,
Close
man.
friend?
Right? Because I don't think you're fun anymore. So now we get to, like, a couple of interesting questions. These are shots in the dark, okay? So on the one hand, like, maybe we're just digging, like, I don't really know. The first question is, have you ever opened up to someone and, like, been hurt by it?
Have I opened up to someone and been hurt by it?
Yeah. And specifically, like, we can even, like, I can ask you very specifically, like, has there been a case where you felt like someone pulled away from you because you showed them a side of June that is not fun and fun to be around?
That's the thing. I don't think I've done that yet.
Okay, that's totally fine. So other option is, have you been on the receiving end of that? Where have there been sort of situations where, like, people have opened up to you, or and then, like, you've sort of seen, or you yourself have withdrawn from someone because they show you a part of them? I know you're a really good listener, so this is probably unlikely, but have there been situations where, like, you kind of pulled back, or you saw other people pull back from someone who's vulnerable?
I think I've seen other people that, like, told me vulnerable things and then pulled back themselves because they, kind of exposed that. And maybe they thought that I would think differently of them or whatever.
Yeah. But how, and what ended up happening there? So they pulled back, and did you let them, or?
I think it slowly kind of, like, drifted apart, probably.
June, I feel like we're missing something. What do you think?
I think it's I think we're focusing too much on, like, not being good enough part, because that's not my main issue.
Okay. So what should we be focusing on instead, and what's your main issue? That's very helpful feedback, by the way. Thank you.
Trying to think as well. I think in terms of, like, friendships and relationships, I think, like, for example, let's say in high school, I was probably afraid to start a relationship because if I did, I was scared of the aftermath, because I hate conflict. So I hate the awkwardness. And I feel like in the friendships things too, if I open up and if someone else opens up and then they felt uncomfortable with that, then there's the awkwardness as well.
Okay. Help me understand what you hate about the awkwardness.
Mm, you know, like the awkwardness when you, let's say, date someone and then like you're in the same friend group or whatever, and then there's like that tension there as well. Like if you didn't date, it wouldn't be awkward for anyone involved.
So you're trying to protect people or yourself from the awkwardness?
Yeah, I think for myself, yeah.
So, June, do you mind if you don't have to answer this, so I'm going to ask a pretty specific personal question. Are you in a relationship right now?
No.
Have you been in a relationship that's serious before?
Not a serious one.
Can you tell me about a relationship that you have been in?
Yeah. It's quite a long time ago though.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It was more of like the girl liked me, so I was like, oh, a cute girl likes me. So, you know, I got into the relationship. But then I think I learned from that relationship that you shouldn't really like get into a relationship just because you're lonely and the other person's lonely, and then, you know, you have this like infatuation, because like the aftermath is like, oh, I don't want to see that person anymore. Oh, I don't want to see their like friends anymore either. So I feel like it just makes everything like kind of uncomfortable.
Okay. So what
So
happened
unless
in the relationship?
it's mostly like just too different.
Yeah, so that's maybe why the relationship kind of ended, but can you help me understand like what it looked like from the outside, or what the sequence of sort of events were?
Well, I was like super young. I was like 14, so
Have
I
you
don't know
been
if
in a
I
relationship since then?
no.
How do you feel about that?
Mm, I don't really have strong, like super strong feelings about it, but I do feel like I'm missing out. Because I focus so much on like Rust, like from my 18 to like 23, like I didn't really travel that much. I didn't really live life. I didn't really date. Didn't really go outside. So I do feel like I'm missing out, and maybe that's like part of the reason why I'm not satisfied with all the other things. Because I'm only focused on one thing.
Okay. So when you say missing out, how does that feel?
Missing out. How does that feel?
If that question is hard for you, I can ask it a different way.
Sure.
Do you ever think about what the consequences of missing out are?
You don't know what it's like?
What does that mean for you going forward?
Makes me curious.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's why I want to travel more. Once it gets better with COVID and stuff.
June, do you ever feel like what I was expecting to hear was something along the lines of actually like being a little bit afraid that like once you've missed out, like it's really hard because like now like everyone's kind of past you, right? And so if you try to like date someone, sometimes people will feel like, oh, like she's going to be more experienced than I am. And like I'm not really going to be sure, like it'll be awkward. Do you ever have thoughts like that?
Not really.
Interesting. Okay.
See, I think I know what kind of questions you're asking, and I know the answers that could be said, but like it's I don't know, it's just not like that for me.
Yep.
And I know people can be like, "Oh, he's just hiding it," but like I don't my feeling of dissatisfaction is that it's that I don't really feel those things, and that's what makes it feel empty.
Yeah. So it looks like what we're coming back to. So I'm really happy you said that, hJune, because I don't think that just because, so like it's just as important to close off the wrong paths as it is to find the right one. So in medicine, we have this concept called differential diagnosis. And like, if someone has a fever, like maybe it's the flu, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's, strep throat, maybe it's lymphoma or lupus. And sometimes in medicine, we have to order tests not to necessarily find the right diagnosis, but we'll order a test to make sure it isn't lymphoma, and order a test to make sure it isn't lupus. And so we can almost use like a process of elimination approach. And so I think part of what we're doing here today is sort of a process of elimination approach. What do you think?
Yeah, I had a tough time answering those questions, actually.
Yep.
And if you think about it, it's like really simple questions.
Why do you think you have a tough time answering them?
Because I think if you ask like how do you feel about that, right? It's like, that's the thing. I didn't really feel anything about that.
Yep. And so
I feel like that would be like a super mundane answer. But then, like, if I said anything else, it would be a lie.
Yep. And so, how do you feel about giving me mundane answers?
Hey, you know what? I think I tied this together.
Huh?
Because I don't have experiences like that. I feel like that's why I can't open up, because I don't want to give boring answers.
Okay. Yeah. So you feel like the answers that you give when you open up aren't going to be good enough. They'll be boring.
No, I'm being completely honest right now. Like, I'm not trying to like
I
make
know
a
you're being
show
honest
or
with
whatever.
me. I'm talking about other people though. Right? Because you say that like if I offer what's on the inside, it's going to feel bland to people.
Yes.
Right? So like I'm just noticing an interesting theme. Like, sure, I get that it's bland. And I'm not, I know, I get the sense you're being authentic with me. I don't think you're trying to like, hide. I genuinely don't think you're hiding. But at the same time, I do notice that there's sort of like a theme that like what you have to give isn't good enough.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
So then let me ask you this. Like, so let's go to the emotional moderation then. So you don't feel things quite as intensely as other people feel them.
And I'm very jealous of that. So like if people are like super sad about something, or like if someone's super ecstatic about something, like I see that, I'm like, I wish I had that.
And have you ever felt super sad or excited about something?
Super sad or excited about something. I think I probably have, but like in hindsight, if I look back to it, I think I always like downplay it. So like during the moment, I was probably super excited, but then like if I look back like 2 years later, I'd be like, oh, it wasn't that good. So I don't remember that feeling as intensely as I probably had it when it happened. So like if I try to look back right now, like I can't really recall any specific moment to tell you.
Do you ever, let me just think about this. Okay, so hJune, so I know this may be like a little bit unsatisfying, but I'm going to like toss out like a possibility, okay? So have you ever heard of this term alexithymia?
No.
So alexithymia is a condition in which you are not aware of what your internal emotions are. So it's almost like you're colorblind to emotion. So alexithymia is very common in like 3 populations. So like you know, a lot of like Asians are alexithymic, Indians too, men and gamers. So if you think about like the culture that you grew up in, what was like, was there a lot of emotion expressed in your household growing up?
No.
Did your parents tell you that they loved you?
I think no.
Okay.
I could see that. I
Sure.
mean, they are great parents.
Yep.
And I could feel the love, but we never verbally said it. And I think when I was like around 17, I think I had a feeling where I was like, why is my family not like the ones I see in movies? Like the ones you see in movies, they're like saying, oh, I love you, and like doing like all this affectionate stuff. But then I realized that like part of the problem is not just my parents, it's also me. I was also afraid to say I love you. Like I would say like I love you to like girls like that I didn't even fucking care about when I was younger. But then I was so scared to say that to my mom. Right? So I think starting from then, I did start saying it to my mom and dad. And then we are pretty regularly saying that now.
What made you scared to say that to your mom and dad?
It's embarrassing, man. It was embarrassing at first.
What's embarrassing about it?
Well, I think growing up and not doing that kind of stuff and then all of a sudden doing it, when you're an angsty teenager, I think that's pretty... You're like gonna put in a pretty vulnerable place, I think.
In what place?
Like, what
is
if I
that?
say that? What if I say that and then, you know, the response is like, oh, why are you saying that? Or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, is that, so we're talking about vulnerability and how people may respond to it. You know, but it sounds like you've never been in the situation where you have opened up to someone. So it sounds like you were actually vulnerable with your parents. Like you went on a limb and you said, I love you. And they said, I love you too. You're great, June.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like that's significant and relates to our conversation, but I'm not quite sure how. What do you think?
I think something's clicking. I think just like can't really expect other people to be vulnerable with me if I don't take the initiative to be vulnerable with them as well.
Sure.
Because that's like saying I love you to your mom, or that's like, I don't know, sharing like something emotional with your friends.
What would you share?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. So I feel like something clicked for me there too. I don't know exactly what it is, but it certainly has the themes of vulnerability, going out on a limb, being accepted. You know, and I think this is where when we talk about culture, so I think that you know, June, it sounds like you're good at singing, sounds like you're good at dancing, sounds like you're good at basketball, it sounds like you're really good at Rust. And so when it comes to understanding our emotions, that's a skill too. Right? So like we can be, just like you can train your palate or train your eyesight or train your, you know, your reflexes, your hand-eye coordination, your ability to like get the ball in the basket. You can also train yourself to understand what you feel on the inside. And there are a couple of different things that I think could be going on. So I'm going to go like academic for a second. And let's like forget, because I'll ask you lots of questions about how you feel about stuff, and you generally give me umbrella terms. So you'll say like uncomfortable or awkward. But like, what is awkward? Right? So like usually awkwardness is an umbrella term that like means something like fear of judgment, for feeling guilty for destroying your friend group. Right? So when I think about like the actual emotions that people are feeling, if you date someone in your friend group and then y'all break up, there's actually a whole constellation of feelings there that we call awkward because we don't know how to define what they are.
Okay, I get it now.
right? So like, let's just think through what people could be feeling. The first is you guys go to a party and then like all of your friend group is there. Or maybe even before the party starts, it's like people are texting each other. And then you feel guilty because like people don't know like who to text. It's supposed to be fun. But now that you and your girlfriend broke up, the entire group like can't have fun anymore. So maybe you feel guilty.
Yes.
Right? But it's like,
feel guilty.
Yeah, but it's weird because like you don't like we don't put words to that. Or maybe you feel ashamed. Like maybe you feel like, you know, she has some friends in the friend group that are closer to her than closer to you. And as she's crying every day, like she's going to make you look bad because the friends are going to think, oh, you're an asshole. And so then like maybe you feel a little like that can create all kinds of feelings. Maybe you feel a little bit ashamed for hurting her. Maybe you feel a little bit like angry because she's talking shit about you, and like since those are her friends better, like they're gonna start thinking less of you and you don't deserve that. Does that make sense that people could kind of feel that way?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because for me, I was like, oh, awkward. Okay, that encapsulates what I feel really well. But now that you like break it down, I can see what you mean now.
Right. So and then there's like there are even all kinds of other layers. Like, what if you're crushing a little bit on someone else in the friend group? And so like, what's gonna happen there now that you broke up with this person? Or like, what if one of your friends is crushing on her and now you broke up with her? And now you've
that's complex.
It's very complex.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Okay, so now
I hate conflict of any kind.
Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So the first thing is like, what do you hate about conflict?
I just don't want to have any bad blood with anyone.
Why? What's
I want
wrong
all my interactions to be positive.
Yeah, so that's why you're not going to open up to anyone.
Maybe that's it.
Right? Because you gotta like. Here's the thing, June. So when it comes to alexithymia, what happens, so this is what happens, is like, so culturally we're like taught to sort of suppress emotion, so we don't like understand what they are. So we use these terms like awkward, right? Fine. Secondly, when you play a lot of video games, like literally video games will shut off, like I was just talking about this, I can't believe this, but video games will shut off your amygdala, which is like the part of your brain that experiences...
Is that emotions?
Yeah. Right?
That
so
is
like if
rust.
Absolutely, right? So like rust is like so then what's happening is you've got like, 8 hours a day or whatever where you're like playing Rust. And so what you're doing is you're like switching off this emotional circuitry so it starts to get rusty. And then on top of it, it sounds like you're a dude. And so like generally speaking, especially like culturally in most cultures, that like, women will emotionally express things to each other in a platonic way.
Yeah.
But as men, like, like it's weird. We use like the language of body, right? So like if I get like dumped by my girlfriend, or if I break up with my girlfriend, I'm not going to come to you and say, hey, June, I feel really bad about myself. And then you're going to say like, yeah, man, sucks, bro. And then I'm not going to say like, yeah, I'm now afraid that I will never be able to find love again, and that there's something fundamentally broken in me because I couldn't make this relationship work.
That's so true.
Right? What I'm going to say, you're going to be like, sucks, bro. And I'm like, yeah, man. And I'm going to be like, yeah, it feels like she tore my nutsack off. And you're like, yeah, man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I see girls do that a lot, like being like super like open with each other, and being like very descriptive with the words, and like actually explaining their emotions well. And I'm really jealous of that, because like if I try to like when you asked me about my emotions, like I had no idea what to say.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that like the first problem here is alexithymia, because when I point it out to you, right? So even if we pay attention, I don't know if this makes sense, June, but how are you feeling emotionally right now?
Right now?
Yeah. So I'm not actually. I'm not even.
Feels like it's getting more clear.
Yes. Okay. So but that's not an emotion.
Oh man,
right?
It's an emotion.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Don't get frustrated. So like, what is the energy of the conversation now?
What's the energy? It's a little bit more comfortable.
Yep. Right. So like, there's a change in the tone of your voice. You're laughing. Right.
Yeah,
Whereas like before,
it clicked.
Yeah. Before it's like,
Yeah, because I couldn't really think of like what to say.
Right. So what's happening
how
is
to describe what I was thinking.
Totally fine. So like, as we get closer to the truth, some kind of emotion is going to come up. And like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like, and what we're hearing you do is laughing. Like, I can hear the animation in your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the
I can't help it.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to help it. Like, we're here to help it, right? It's totally fine. You do you, baby. So like, and that's where like, okay, so because now as I explain these emotions to you, like, you know, I know this sounds kind of weird, June. Sometimes I say things that sound so basic they sound idiotic, but when I point these possibilities out to you, you understand exactly, right? So like, but you can't understand when I point it out unless on some level you know. If you truly did not feel those things, and I said, oh, like maybe this person is feeling this, you'd be like scratching your head and you'll be like, yeah, I can sort of see that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you're like, yes, I can understand all those things. I'm conflict avoidant. Like, you call it conflict avoidant because that's what it looks like from the outside, or that's the surface level way that you describe it. But really what it is like, I can't tolerate people disliking me. Right? And so if we think about, you know, why can't you tolerate people disliking you? Like, there's an emotion there that could be fear. I'm afraid.
I can't tolerate people that I like disliking me.
Yeah,
that's what scares me. If someone random internet stranger didn't like me, I wouldn't care at all.
Absolutely. So
but if
now
it's my family or my friends or let's say like my community, then I would be like, oh, there must be something I did wrong, and that would bother me a lot.
So now we get to, so there's origins to that, but before we go there, like now we get to the vulnerability. So anytime you have a surface level relationship with someone and you be vulnerable with them, what are the possible outcomes of that vulnerability?
You wouldn't talk to them anymore?
Possibly, right? It either strengthens the relationship or shatters the relationship.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can sort of see, like, why you may feel, like, I imagine that you almost feel paralyzed in these relationships. Like, you're kind of stuck at the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you really look into that, one of the possibilities is that, like, you don't know how to make sure that when you vulnerably express something, that it's going to advance the relationship forward.
Yeah, I have no clue.
You don't know how to say something that won't make things awkward.
Not awkward. Like, I can.
So it's not.
Yeah, I can't talk about like personal stuff without making it awkward.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you don't know. Like, you can talk about surface level stuff, but like, it's your avoidant. Like, you don't want to make things awkward, right, June? Like, scale of 1 to 10 with friends of yours. 10 being is absolutely terrible. 1 being is no big deal. How much do you want to avoid awkwardness?
10.
So there
I did not want any awkwardness.
Right? So like, and now this is like the crux of it, because if you're like, you don't know how to be vulnerable with someone without making it awkward. And so you're avoiding awkwardness at all costs. Ergo, like, you can't be vulnerable with anyone. And so the challenge here is it comes down to control, June. Like, the whole point about advancing a relationship, I know this sounds weird and it's going to sound terrifying. And if you're trying to figure out how you feel when I'm about to say what I'm going to say, the answer is terror. When you are vulnerable with someone, you are opening the door to awkwardness. You are ceding control of the relationship, and it could rupture.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel?
Very afraid.
There it is. And so now we see why you can't open up, because that's the whole point about vulnerability, right? It's like, I'm going to vulnerability is like literally the word means I'm going to give you the opportunity to hurt me. And right now you're a fucking charismatic guy, aren't you, June? You are so good at making friends. You are so good at getting people to like you. You can show this shell to people, and you can everyone when they meet June within 15 minutes, look at this Chad.
Okay, I think you're gassing me up.
Dancer.
Okay, you've been No, listen. You're gassing me up a little bit too much.
Right? No, but come on, bro. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me if I met you in real life in 20 minutes, would I like you?
Maybe.
I think the answer is yes. So. Right? Look at how humble you are. I hope so. How down to earth is this guy, right? He's not an arrogant prick. He's just how is that not the perfect response? Just think about it, right? It's perfect. I hope you like me, man. I'm confident in myself, and I hope you can appreciate that. But you don't say no because you don't have fucking low self-esteem, and you don't say yes because you're not an arrogant prick. It's so perfect. It's so fucking silky smooth, man, like Teflon right here. WD-40.
Oh, man.
Because people do like you, right, June?
I like to think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's still so humble, right? You can state it without being arrogant. I think you're probably charismatic. And now the problem though is that that shell which you have, which makes people like you, is something that you have to discard, and you have to risk making things awkward if you want to advance the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to girls, I don't know if the reason that I'm assuming that you're heterosexual because it sounded like you were talking about a girlfriend, but
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because you've become a big YouTuber and streamer that you don't really have opportunities to engage in relationships, or there have been girls that you've been interested in and something has kept you from asking them out.
Yeah. I've actually never asked someone out before.
Okay, so here we go, baby. So when you think about asking someone out, what are you afraid of? Right? The
golden word is awkwardness.
There it is, right? There it is again. And so but awkward's not a thing. Right? It's just it's
not a thing.
It's an umbrella term.
Okay.
I get that it makes things awkward, but what is the awkwardness that you're trying to avoid? Is it oh, we're kind of friends right now and I don't want to screw that? What is it's there, June. Don't you may not be able to find it, but I don't even know if we're going to find it today, but it's there. Right? What when you I guess I'm going to have to guess because I don't know if you can find it. But so there's this girl. So tell me about it. Do you feel okay talking about a girl, or is that too awkward?
Yeah. No, I can talk. I can talk.
So
about
talk to me about a girl that you liked.
Okay, I think there's only 2 girls that I actually seriously liked, and it's mostly people that were what I was super interested at the time, and they were what I considered like the most passionate about it. I think passion is a big thing.
So passion's a big turn on for you.
Yes. So one of them was a martial art, right? And they would always work super hard. So I would first get that attention. And then it's admiration. Oh, wow, this person's working so hard. I'll work as hard as them. And then it turns into infatuation.
So it sounds what do you mean by infatuation?
Well, you admire them as people first, and then you start liking them.
Okay. And so what did you want to and that you thought about asking her out?
the first girl actually did like me back, but then I don't know. I just like it was kind of gone. The second girl was like in dance. And it was like the same thing. Like she was like super good at dance, and I was like, wow. Like she was super passionate about it, and then I liked her like as a person and as like a dancer, and then I wanted to be like them, and then I started liking them afterwards.
And then what happened?
The two are kind of different because the first one, I kind of did say, wait, I didn't really ask her out, but we kind of figured out that we liked each other, but then it kind of fizzled out. So I don't really have much to say about that.
What do you mean by it kind of fizzled out?
I think I just lost interest.
Okay. So, June, I want to just like point out to you what I'm seeing, okay? Like, let me know if you feel judged, but like, I'm seeing like blind spots in this conversation. Right? So it's like you can
Trust me, I do too.
Yeah.
And it seems really weird, but that's just how it was.
Yeah. No, I understand. So I think what we've got to do is like increase your like ability to detect. Right? So like here's this girl, you're infatuated with her, you respect her as a human being. Like, how are you not just like the perfect boyfriend, June? Like you respect her as a human first. And then like you like her, you guys like each other, and then it fizzles out? It's like that sounds
I just like lost interest. Maybe it was because like if I really try to think about it, I think because I saw her in like such a positive light at first, like once I got to know her, maybe she wasn't what I expected. And then it fizzled out.
Is that the case?
I think that was the case for the first one.
Okay, what about the second one?
The second one, I never really made a move.
What kept you from making a move?
Probably just insecurity.
What does that mean?
Because I like regarded her so highly, I just didn't think that I would be good enough.
I'm sorry, have we talked about that before? You not being good enough? Right? So now it's interesting because like, you know, were you afraid that things would get awkward if you asked her out?
Yeah, because I enjoyed her company, like even without dating. But then if I cross that line, that would be gone too.
Yep. So that's the thing, right? So like, remember, like, so this is why I think your relationship state. Okay, so June, this is tying together for me now. Okay, may not tie together for you, but it seeming like we're kind of hitting these same notes like over and over and over again. I don't know if it's because I'm drawing a constellation out of stars, and there really isn't like a horse in the sky. It's just stars.
It's all over the place. There's no image with my constellation.
So maybe it's just me over-interpreting because that's a bias of people in my profession. Is we like to listen to human beings and reduce them to simple patterns that we can divine out of our psychiatric brilliance. So I could be falling into that trap, but I really don't think so. So here's what I'm hearing from you, okay? So the first thing is that, like, you like this person. And then, like, the problem is that, like, at some point to advance the relationship, you've got to take a risk. Right? Like, and this is where, like, stuff comes together. So there's this girl, she's in dance, like, you respect her because she puts in the work like you put in the work. It's something that you pride very heavily about yourself. You may not be the smartest kid in the bunch. You may not be the gold medalist, but God damn it, you're going to at least get a bronze because, like, you can progress. Like, you can put in the work and you can put in the time. And here she is. She's into dance. She's probably in shape. She's relatively hot. And then, like, you know, so you're into her. And you guys are friends because you're charismatic and you're a likable guy. And then probably what happened is like a couple of things. Maybe you felt her out a little bit, right? Like, you kind of put out some signals like, hey, but like you never were too transparent about it. Because like you said with the first girl, like you're pretty good at like sussing things out, but you're never going to ask directly. You're never going to make anything awkward, right? You're never going to put her in the place of like, hey, I'm really into you. Like, are you interested in going out? Because, oh my God, that would be so awkward. What if she says no? And so now the problem is that like this is where things really start to like come together in this terrible storm. Because if you're insecure about yourself, that makes it even harder for you to risk. If you were secure, if you were good enough, then you'd be okay rolling the dice. Because then I know it sounds weird, June, but it's not even rolling the dice at that point, right? Like the risk is low, the more confident you are in yourself.
Yeah.
And so you strive for progress. And you strive to be the gold medalist. Because if you're the gold medalist, then you can roll the dice and it won't matter. Because you're so good, like you know that people will accept you. Even though that's not true. Like, I know it's not true, you know it's not true, but it's like this kind of like clicks together in this weird way. Because you're always striving to be better, always striving to be better, always striving to be better. And then one day, if you're good enough, then you can ask someone out and then there's no risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But now the problem is that like even with your relationships, the very nature of asking someone out is that it is a risk. The very nature of deepening a relationship is that it involves vulnerability.
Yeah.
And you try so hard to control your relationships, to keep them perfect. You don't want anyone that you care about to dislike you at all. And that's sort of like, it's kind of like, bro, if I'm like never willing to get into the ring and take a couple of punches, like I'm never going to be able to play the game. You know, like, I mean, it sounded like you played League of Legends. I'm not too familiar with Rust. I mean, I know it's like a cooperative survival MMO kind of thing, right?
Let's do the common ground as League of Legends. I played that game a lot.
So it's like if I'm afraid of losing and I never queue up from League, like that's what I hear you saying to me. That like, I don't know how to queue up for a game of League because you're so terrified about like losing. And it's like, it's just part of the game.
Yeah, that actually gave me a lot of insight. What you just said. Because I actually never thought about it, but I do wait until everything's perfect. If I want to do something big, then I wait until it's perfect because I hate risk.
Yeah. Right. And this is the thing. So like risk tolerance ties to confidence. Because if we think about what confidence is the ability to face uncertainty. And the more that you stack the deck in your favor before you act, June, what happens to your confidence? If I stack the deck in my favor and then I act, am I more confident afterward?
No, probably not.
The exact opposite. It reinforces my insecurity. Because it's not me that did it. It's all of these other things that made sure that it worked out.
Meticulous planning.
Yes.
To do it.
And so like now I'm going to give you just an analogy from medicine, okay? So can I share a story about myself?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I love that.
So like I finished medical school and then everyone called me a doctor. But I know this sounds kind of weird, but when you finish medical school, like you're not really a doctor. You know, does that make sense? Like you just get your MD. It's like the day before medical school, you don't have your MD degree. And then you walk down the stage and someone hands you a piece of paper and then like magically you're a doctor. You're not a doctor. You're just like, one day you're a fourth year medical student. You're not a full-fledged doctor. Sure, technically you're a doctor. But does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And so like, I still remember the day that I became a doctor. I was at a wedding. And then someone was like, is there a doctor here? And I was like, oh shit. Because normally like when you... Yeah, so like normally like so then you start residency, okay, which is like where you really learn how to be a doctor. So you go to the hospital and then you're taking care of patients, but you have like supervisors who are above you. So I'm there at the hospital, I'm taking care of patients, but I have a senior resident, I have an attending physician. So there's a dude with 20 years of experience, there's a dude with 3 years of experience, there's a dude who's 1 year ahead of me. And this is my team. I'm the bottom on the totem pole, but there are 3 people looking over my shoulder all the time. We're like butt buddies, like the buddy system.
Oh.
Right? So
I think I know where you're going with this.
And so then, you want me to finish or you want to... Yeah, let me finish.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So like here I am at the wedding and it's like, oh crap. And I'm like waiting for someone else to say, you know, but there's like, it's bizarre. My mom is a doctor. So my mom my mom volunteers me. She's a doctor. She's been practicing for 30 years. And then she's like, oh yeah, like my son is a doctor. And I was like, what? You're like, I've been doing this for 6 months. You've been doing this for 30 years. And then she like points at me. Like, I still remember, she points at me. We're in this big hall with like 400 people, like 50 tables. And she points at me. And then I see like people walking over and I'm like, what? And then they're like, oh, like your mom said you're a doctor. And I was like, yes, that is true. And then we walk outside of the hall and there's like this 70-year-old lady who's like laying down on a couch. And I'm like, oh shit. And my mom is there. I don't think she realizes what she had done. And then so they're like, you know, oh, like she's feeling lightheaded. This is it's like the bride of the grandmother or the bride. And she's like, my grandma's like lightheaded. And I'm like, oh shit. Is she having a heart attack? Is she having a stroke? Is she, you know? So then I'm like, okay, well, and then like your training kicks in. There's no senior residents, no attendings. And my mom has abandoned me, which is, you know, if I ever talk to a psychiatrist on stream, we can talk about that. But, and so there I am. And it's like, okay, so I talk to her, you know, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, okay, I check her blood pressure, you know, ask her a couple of questions. Like I do a neurological exam. I'm like, okay, blink and then do this and look to the right and look to the left, swallow, smell my fingers. I know it sounds weird, but something that you do. You know, try to smell this thing and like, okay, like, can you wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes? Okay. You know, are you having any chest pain? And then I look at her and she doesn't seem that sick, right? Like, I know this sounds weird, but like even you, June, like, you know, you see some people sometimes and you're like, that person is sick. And then other people, you're like, oh, like that person isn't that sick. She doesn't look sick. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds like maybe you're dehydrated. Have you like had any water today? And she's like, yeah, I had a little bit. And I was like, why don't you have some water? I'm going to sit here with you. I don't think we need to call 911 yet, but I'm going to sit here with you for 15 minutes. Like, get you some food, get you some water. She's feeling better. Okay, let's like, it's fine. No one needs to go to the hospital. Okay? And it's like, holy shit, I'm a doctor.
You're a doctor.
And so like, where does that confidence come from? There's no attendings. It's just me and grandmother of the bride. And the problem is that like you're good at Rust, right, June? And when you start on a Rust server, who's got your back?
Who's got my back?
Yeah.
My teammates?
Okay, right? But there are other teams. And so
Nobody.
yeah, like sure, your teammates have your back, but like
Maybe
even when
me.
you go into a game of League of Legends, like even if it's a team game, it's you, right? Like it's not like it's not like, you know, Riot Games is like sitting there like recoding things to make your hero overpowered, which is exactly what you do in real life. Is you try to like, you know, open up dev tools and structure your life so that you never have to take risks. And then the more that you do that, like the harder it becomes to open up because you want to avoid that awkwardness at all costs. And like, I don't know how to say this, bro, but like, if you're never willing to, you know, make things awkward, it's going to be really hard to ask a girl out. But you have your plan, June. And you know what your plan is? Your plan is to wait until you're 100% sure that she likes you and she's going to say yes. And then you will ask her out. You're going to ask your friends,
True.
you're going to ask her friends, and you're going to make sure that everything's...
No, I'll never do that.
Okay. That would make things too awkward.
I know what you mean.
But you got to be sure before you take your shot. And as long as that's the case, bro, you're going to be like stuck at this level.
That was a really good story because I think it relates. Because like even if you didn't think you were a doctor at the time because you were like 6 months in, and there was like all these other people that had way more experience than you were still a doctor. And then once you're like put into that position, you were able to do it anyways, even though you didn't think you were a doctor at first.
Yep. So here's the thing, June. Did I think I was good enough?
No, but you did it anyways.
Was I good enough?
Yes.
Did you get an 86 or did you get a 95?
I got a 95.
And what did you think you deserved?
100. I'm just kidding.
See, I'm getting close to something. You can deflect with humor if you want to. Because here's the thing, June, you are good enough. You've been good enough. You deserve the 95 then. Your parents have loved you since the day you were born. Mm-hmm. And those chicks were totally into you. You don't need to be any better than what you are right now. You're golden, bro. Like, should you continue to grow as a human being? Absolutely. But you're good enough.
Thank you. I think right now I am trying to be like opening up more, like I'm like talking to people more, like initiating more friendships, because I never used to do that. Honestly, like even last year I didn't really do that. But then like this year I'm really trying to do that. I think in terms of like dating, I'm not too worried. Back then I didn't have a lot of confidence. I think I grew, like over the last 5 years, I did grow a little bit more confidence. I think right now the only issue is I'm just not able to even have the first step where I have a girl that I like. Because of COVID, basically.
Yeah, so if that's the case, like that's why, you know, this is why we're going to have this conversation now, and like hopefully people will get vaccinated. Turns out people may need a third booster. But I think you'll get there. But I think the main thing, June, is you've got to stop running away from awkwardness. Right? And that's where like overcoming awkwardness is not going to happen as long as you don't know what it is. And so the next step is going to be like unpacking what is awkwardness in a given situation. Right? So like if you think about someone who you want to deepen a relationship with, what are you saying that would make things awkward? And like, what is the awkward? Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it shame? You know, like I will send you something called the feelings wheel. And if you have like a friend or therapist or something like that you can work with.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
I'm going to send you the feelings wheel, and like you're going to just circle the feelings. Okay. Oh, it looks like someone is fog. Okay. So let me forward this to you.
Oh, you actually have the feeling wheel?
Yeah, one of our... How do I... Copy image. So I will just... Okay, so yeah, can you take a look at that?
Oh my god.
Okay.
This is so big.
Yes. Hold on, chat. Let me open this.
Wait, there's like 100 words here.
Yes.
Wow. This is like beyond my vocabulary.
Well, yeah. So
Dang.
like you're gonna progress, June, because that's something you're good at. Right? So like this is the feelings wheel. So when we talk about awkward, you know, it's gonna be feeling rejected, feeling excluded in that group after you break up with the girlfriend, feeling inadequate, feeling anxious, feeling bitter, feeling humiliated, feeling resentful for your friends for siding with her instead of siding with you, feeling overwhelmed, out of control, pressured to ask her out quickly or be nice or fix your problems. You know?
You know, I really think just being a streamer like really made me worse in being descriptive, because what ends up happening, Dr. K, I don't know if you've already reached this point in streaming where you just like say everything as KEKW.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, right? Because I think that like you know, when I was talking about how men describe, you know, feelings in physical ways, I think actually one of the things that's really cool is that we do have our own vocabulary, right? And it's just not
mine right now is Sag.
Yeah, but so that's the thing, right? Is if you really look at it, like the reason that there are so many different icons is because Feels Bad Man and Sag and Pepe Hands is different from Pepe Crying.
True.
Right? Pepe with tears in his eyes is different from Pepe crying. And like there's like feels bad man, and then there's Sag, and then there's feels Sag man. So it's almost like you could construct a feeling wheel with like all of the emotes. And that would work, right? Like underneath Sag, there's feels bad man, and then there's feels Sag man. And then there's Pepe with tears in his eyes, and then there's Pepe crying. Like you could do this. So I think it's interesting that you say everything is KEKW. I don't think everything is Kek. I don't even know what KEKW means. But but like, you know, I definitely think we are developing our own vocabulary. And,
yeah. Honestly, yeah.
And even like, you know, the fish, like I love the fish. You know the fish emote?
The fish emote? You mean what was it called? Which one?
It's the one with
the ooh.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So there's ooh, and there's pog, and there's pog champ. So like in the pog wedge of the feeling wheel, there's poggers, pog champ. You know, I don't know what the other ones are.
Yeah, it's becoming a real problem actually. Like Twitch talk, like even sheesh. Do you know sheesh?
No. Is that a person or a thing?
Okay, I'll do it once for you, okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Sheesh!
Is that a mating call or what? What is that?
You know, it could be very well be like a mating call because actually I have a story from today. I went to the gym and I was done working out and I went to the locker room, right? I was just showering and then a bunch of dudes came in, right? And they were like changing and I overheard their conversation.
Wait, I may not be ready for this.
No. One guy was like, "Yo, I've been like doing intermittent fasting." I was like, and the other guy was like, "Oh, what for?" And then the other guy was like, "Yeah, I'm cutting right now." And the other guy said, "Sheesh!" And then I actually had, like, I was like in the shower room, and I had like my first instinct when I heard that was to sheesh with that guy. It's actually becoming a problem.
Wait, so why didn't you though? Because it would make things awkward.
Yeah, but that's like actually.
Go for it, June.
Next time I'll sheesh with him. Yes, okay.
Yes. You got to put yourself out there. Right? you got to like let that pog champ within you out, June.
Oh my god.
Right? Like
You're right.
the you
Shouldn't
know,
be scared.
It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be scared. But don't let that stop you.
Next time I will sheesh from the shower room.
Yeah, sheesh from the shower room. That's my concrete advice to you at the end of the conversation. So I don't know what you were planning on getting from this, but what we're going to end up with is sheeshing from the shower room.
I'm going to sheesh from the shower room next time. Thank you very much.
Any questions, June? I mean, because I do feel like we're at sort of like a good stopping point, but I don't know if I don't know how you feel about that or.
No, I think this is really good. Honestly, I really love talking with like super intelligent people like you because I think it gives me a lot of insight. Like at the beginning of our conversation, honestly, I didn't even know what to say because I wasn't really sure how to describe anything. But then I feel like I got a lot of insight. Yeah, gave me a lot of hope.
So I appreciate your positive sentiment and your gratitude for the conversation. And I still feel like I got to bounce that back a little bit and remind you that it takes two to tango. So I know that you appreciate, I just drive this point home, which is like, what is your contribution to the conversation? Because what I'm hearing is you call me super intelligent and you being ignorant.
No. That was not like a...
Okay. Right, because you said... but I just want to reflect back to you that I enjoy these conversations too, June, and it's because I recognize that there may be some things that you don't understand, but I think you actually did an amazing job. Because the problem is that, like, I swim in these waters all the time. It's my day job. Whereas, like, we're queuing up, right? And, like, this is, like, I grind every single day. And, like, we're queuing up together. and you're, you're holding your own in lane. Like, that's the way we win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think it's really awesome. Like, I think this conversation is a good example of, like, you putting yourself out there, feeling awkward, I'm sure. And then really, like, I'm really, like, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Cool. Do you, sometimes I teach people how to meditate. Do you?
Oh, I actually love meditating, but I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
Coincidentally, ever since I started Rust.
Like,
can I tell you a story about, like, the first time I tried meditating?
Yes, please.
So I think I was like 13, and I was just like laying down in my bed, and then on my YouTube recommendations, I got this guided meditation thing, and this guy had like a super deep voice, and I was like, oh my god. So I like put my earphones on, and then I did this guided meditation thing, and then I was like listening to this guy's like beautiful voice, and he puts me into like a stance, and then I literally felt like I was in the middle of space. It was like super cool, but I haven't been able to replicate it since, no matter how hard I tried.
Okay. So you felt a sensation of vastness?
Yeah, I was just like floating in like middle of nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
It felt like that. It was
so
really cool.
Are you sitting up or what right now?
I can lay down on my chair.
Let me just think about how to teach this to you. So this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced technique, but it's actually relatively simple. Your back should be straight, and if you've done this lying down, I think you can try doing it lying down again. Okay. I think this is going to take practice. I don't know if it's going to work right now, because I think that you need a certain degree of like calmness, and I think actually like we're energized right now is what I'm feeling, June. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to share the technique with you that you can try to practice. Okay. So the technique is very simple, and we can kind of try to do it together. So you can lay down if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and sit up straight. The main thing for meditation is that your back needs to be straight. So you can do that laying down, standing up, sitting up straight.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes. So what? It's not. There isn't a scientific reason. I'm sure there's a scientific reason. I don't know what the scientific reason is. I should say that. But in the sort of Eastern systems of like, energy and chi and all that stuff, the energy of like spiritual growth is situated along your spine, lives at the base of your spine. And as that energy rises along the back of your spine, you start to have more spiritual experiences and spiritual growth. So there's no scientific correlate to this energy. Like no one's been able to find it or detect it or anything like that. But essentially, like, apparently the spine, according to these theories, like the people who developed the practice of meditation, this is what they said, is that you want to facilitate, like, it's like a pipe that, water flows through, and it starts at the bottom and then it works its way up. Does that answer your question enough, or?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So it's going to be kind of weird, but what I'm going to ask you to do, it's hard to demonstrate. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and then there's a point that's sort of like maybe right above the middle of your eyebrows. I don't know if you can kind of tell. It's like not, it's maybe like a quarter inch or a few centimeters above the middle. Or you can kind of find it. For some people, it feels a little bit higher. But what I want you to do is close your eyes, and then I want you to look at that point. So I know it sounds kind of weird, but and then you're going to...
I've never done that. I think that's the first time I've ever done that in my life.
So I want you can lay down or sit up straight, and then I want you to just look at that and just keep focusing on that point as if you're trying to like look through it with your eyes. Like imagine that your eyes are behind your forehead. It's hard to describe because these things are so experiential. But like imagine your eyes are behind your forehead and you're trying to look through, like that point in your forehead is like a telescope. And so you're like looking through that point into something else. Does that make sense? Okay, so this may cause some amount of eye strain, which then you want to relax once it starts to feel uncomfortable, and then you want to resume again once your eyes have calmed down. You don't want to push yourself or hold it for a long period of time, but gradually over time, you want to build up the strength and focusing on that point. You may also learn that at some point you can actually relax your eyes and focus on the point anyway, which is totally fine. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, so let's try to practice for like 3 or 4 minutes, okay? So you can try to hold it for maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, relax for a little bit, hold again, relax. Don't strain your eyes too much, okay? So let's begin. Okay, go ahead and relax. Let your eyes remain closed. Go ahead and take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. You can go ahead and rub your eyes a little bit.
Okay.
And then go ahead and open them. What was that like for you, June?
I didn't get to the state I was talking about, but it is really relaxing.
Okay. Yeah, so you could try practicing this. Did you feel like dizzy at all?
No, but I did feel the eye strain that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I'm like trying so hard to like look up, and then like naturally gradually goes down. So I have to like do it again.
Yeah, so it may take a little bit of practice. You know, this may not be the right technique for you. I tend to find that some people will sometimes feel dizzy, and then I know it's not. Well, this is probably not gonna make any sense, but as the dizziness kind of like expands, this is a technique that I consistently hear from people when I teach it, that it gives them the feeling of what I call vastness, which is that they like that. I know it sounds kind of weird. Like you feel dizzy, and then it like kind of like it sounds so bizarre, but it kind of like grows and grows, and then like a lot of people that I teach this technique will sort of share that experience with me.
Yeah, that's kind of what I experienced back then.
Yeah. So one thing I would say, June, is that one of the things that gets in the way of meditation or experiences in meditation is seeking experiences in meditation. So when our mind is calm and tranquil and we don't have expectation, then it can truly shut off and open ourselves up to whatever experience we can have. The challenge is that if you go into a practice seeking something, that very expectation will prevent your mind from relaxing. So I would say, just do meditation without sort of thinking about that, or try to let go of that expectation. Like, learn to let go of your goal, which I think is also very healthy for you in general. But
damn, always finds a way to tie it together.
Yeah. Maybe that's just me looking for constellation.
Do you meditate every day?
Do I meditate every day? I'm going to go with no. So I tend to have much more intensive periods of meditation, and then I do lots of different kinds of meditation. But I also think that, like, where I am in life right now, it is important for me to not meditate every day and just, like, let that go. You know how you have, like, a cheat day in terms of diet, or, like, you'll take a week off from going to the gym? So I think meditation is sort of the same way, where I tend to meditate a fair amount, but I let go of the everyday thing a long time ago, where it's like, that at this point feels a little bit artificial to me. So what I will do is, like, embark on sprints, essentially, of meditation. And then I'll do a particular practice in depth for a particular amount of time. And then I'll also let my practice wane.
Do you ever, like, think about stuff while meditating, or do you try to, like, keep your mind empty?
You can't keep your mind empty. Your mind has to naturally empty. And I'm usually pretty good at not thinking about things when I meditate, but that just comes with practice. So the way that meditation works, June, is you don't stop thinking about stuff. So your body and mind have a very simple principle of, like, tolerance to a constant stimuli. So if I put on my shirt first thing in the morning or after I shower, I'm going to feel the shirt on my body, right? And then the sensation of the shirt stops. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then if I concentrate on feeling the shirt, I will, like, my mind will stop feeling all other things. Does that make sense?
That one doesn't make too much sense.
We're going to illustrate it really simply. I want you to do this with your hands.
Okay.
Now I want you to concentrate on the sensation of your hands. Can you feel your hands? Are you wearing a shirt?
Yes.
Now I want you to concentrate on the feeling of the shirt. As you focus on the shirt, what happens to the sensation of your hands?
You forget about them?
Absolutely. Right? So in the same way, our mind has lots of thoughts. And so what we do in meditation is we actually start with a focusing technique, like focusing on the breath. And when I put my attention on the breath knocks out all of the other thoughts, but we're still thinking about the breath. Does that make sense? Then what happens is eventually our mind acclimatizes to the sensation of the breath. And if we're lucky, we're left in a no mind state.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Okay.
I don't know if I can get to that point. My mind races all the time.
Sure. Sounds like you may not be good enough.
I'll try it, actually. I'll try for a week.
There we go. Right? So it just takes practice, June. You'll get there. All minds are capable of it. And sometimes if you, like, work out or dance, that may actually be, like, your avenue. Because, like, sometimes when you dance or you sing or you work out, you're, like, one with the practice. Does that make sense? Like, you lose yourself in the dancing, and all you are is, like, a dancing elemental. Like, you become an elemental, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're no longer June. You're just, like, someone who is dancing. So that can be a form of meditation, too. Yeah, so you've done it. So you may just be someone, it sounds like you're quite kinesthetic by nature. Kinesthetic meaning being, like, you have a good, like, sense of your body. So what you may actually want to do is not sitting down meditation. Something like yoga or Tai Chi may work way better for you. Like a very solid, like Hatha yoga. Have you ever done like hot yoga?
No, I never tried hot yoga.
So I would
yoga,
say,
though.
I would say like hot yoga is like a good thing for you to try. I mean, COVID aside, because I don't know, that's probably awful with a mask on, but you know, I'd say in your case, just, I don't know that you need to sit and do like a quiet sitting meditation practice. You may be someone who just really gets to that clear state of mind and that feels so good through a physical focus, as opposed to a breath focus or a mantra or something like that.
I might try it. There's a lot of things that I used to do that gave me that satisfaction that I was talking about, but I stopped doing them for whatever reason.
Sure. So,
and I think if I do that more,
pick it up again.
Should pick it up again.
Yeah. Cool. You want to just tell us, June, where we can find you before we wrap up for the day?
Where you can find me, just on Twitch usually nowadays. Twitch.tv/hJune. You can follow me on Twitter. It's H7UNE.
Cool.
Because someone has my hJune account. It's like
cool.
like this middle-aged like nice lady that has the one hJune.
Outdone by the middle-aged knife lady. All right, man. All right, well, thanks a lot. It sounds like it was helpful, so I'm really happy to hear that. And good luck to you. And
thank you very much, Dr. K.
I'm rooting for you, man. There's a part of me that wants to like bro you up like a couple of weeks from now and like push you to, ask a girl out, but that's not really inappropriate.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Even if you ask me next year, I'll probably still be single.
I know you say that, but that's exactly why I feel like stepping out of my role as whatever the hell I am on Twitch and being like one of your bros and be like, come on, man, let's do this.
No, it's actually awesome to see you on Twitch. I think I watched a lot of your interviews before, and I wasn't really sure how I would react. And at first, like, you could probably tell I was really like kind of uncomfortable. I wasn't really sure what to say. But then I think it clicked at one point.
Yeah, I certainly felt that way too. And it just, it takes some time, man. Just takes time. Practice. Got to roll those dice, June.
I will roll the dice.
Awesome,
even
man.
If the roll is not perfect.
There you go. If you want to, get snake, I guess snake eyes isn't bad, but 2 6s. You just got to roll the dice like over and over and over again. You'll get there.
True, like 100 times.
Yeah. Good luck, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. K.
You're very welcome, hJune. Take care, buddy. Bye. All right, chat. Oh man, I think like I said, it takes some time. People aren't really like you gotta find a way to the emotions, however they are.